Hello, everyone. How you doing? Welcome to Deconstructing Christianity. I'm your host, your guy, Coach Rance. What's up, Tim? First chat award goes to. Are you crazy? Tim gets the first chat award. But welcome, everybody. Welcome, everybody. How you doing? Looking forward to tonight's show. I'm going to talk about should Christians be participating in astrology? I did a video earlier today to give you a little bit of information before we get started so that you can have a little bit of something already added in your brain. Please watch all the videos that I post every day on Facebook and YouTube. We are streaming live on Facebook and YouTube only. And I look forward to our conversations every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This channel is dedicated to people who are deconstructing from Christianity or who are thinking about it or have already, and for us to strengthen our resolve as well as learn from one another and become a community of people who have found their peace by walking away from the oppression of religion. So we'll give about 5 minutes for give people to get a chance to get on, and then we will go from there. So for right now, if you have any questions or comments, you're more than welcome to ask them before we get started. First, I want to thank those who donate to the channel, those who are members on YouTube, those who are subscription holders on Facebook. Thank you. And those who donate through Cash App, I appreciate it. It is an honor to serve you in such manner. We are having a meetup in San Antonio on October 31st through November 2nd. The link for the Drury Hotel Plaza in San Antonio is in the description of the video. If you would like to join us, that would be an awesome thing. As we get together, we have conversations, we go out, we have some fun. We're gonna have a pool event. We're gonna go to the Japanese garden to have a question answer lecture event. And we're just gonna be making up some other events as we go. We're gonna have the first meet and greet that Friday night. We're going to meet at Devil's River. I got to make sure that they don't have an event. That hopefully they don't schedule a private event between now and then. But as it stands right now, out on the patio of Devil's River, we're going to have our Friday night meet and greet. Saturday, we will have our midday conversation at the Japanese Tea Garden. It's a free space. That's a beautiful space to meet in. You can bring your own. It's free to get in, basically. They do have a restaurant there, but you can bring whatever you want to bring to the location. And Saturday evening, we'll have a meetup at the pool, have a conversation, and throughout the day, there'll be opportunities to walk the river walk, go to a museum if you choose. Plenty of free time for you to do whatever you choose to do to enjoy San Antonio. But we're going to keep you busy. So I appreciate it if those who want to come. Can I wear my burkini? Sure, you can cover that thing up, buddy. You can wear whatever you want to wear. So look forward to it. I thought about how can we have a Halloween pool party, but that doesn't make sense. And that wouldn't work. And then the pool's closed at 10, so it wouldn't work anyway. But I can't imagine how you would do a Halloween pool party. It doesn't seems to make any sense whatsoever. So we kind of threw that idea away. What's up, James? How you doing? Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. So we are still in that 5-minute time frame where we are allowing people to come on. I think tonight's going to show some of the contradictions within the Bible. As far as the Bible's mentality towards astrology, but what the Bible promotes as far as astrology as well. So this should be an interesting conversation tonight. About to knock stuff down. That's what happens when you put your foot on the gate. So as we get ready to get started, let me know who you are and where you at, who you are and where you're coming from, so that we can get started. As I use that as a way for me to take some time to get my cigar ready. Of course, these are the La Angelinas. Contact me at Mastering You to number 10. You can get your La Angelina. That is also where you can contact me if you want to do some one-on-one coaching as well. So look forward to that. What up, Rat? Ha! I beat you here, Rat. You weren't early. All right. We got the cigar. We got the coffee. Oh, these beans. These things, that's good. That's some good coffee right there. Angelina makes some good coffee. What up, Crypto, Michael, Kevin? Crypto, Michael, Kevin, welcome to the show. Yeah, Crypto, it's been a while. So tonight we're going to discuss, does the Bible support astrology? Should Christians be participating in astrology? Now, I'm going to talk for a minute before I bring that picture back up. So, right off the bat, with the people that are on right now, if you think the Bible supports astrology, say yes. If you think the Bible is against astrology, say no. If you think the Bible both supports and is against astrology, just say both. So yes, if it supports astrology, no if it doesn't support astrology, and both if you think the answer is both. Yes and no. Thank you for sharing this. For sharing it. Look, we need to start sharing this channel. Got to share it. Got to share the videos. Teresa says both. Rob Key is saying that they supports astrology. Crypto says that it supports astrology. No, the information wasn't any different. I mean, this changed over the centuries, but it was pretty much still the same thing. So if you think the Bible supports astrology, type yes. And if you think the Bible doesn't support astrology, say no. If you think it supports both, say both. Donald says both. Kevin is saying both. James Pancho. I used to have a guy used to call Pancho. Puncho. He says both. I mean, he says it does. Raph says both. Sherry says yes. So as we go through this discussion tonight, I think we're going to see that the Bible actually supports both. It's relative. It's relative to the perspective that the Bible that you're looking at it from. And not so much how you receive the information, but it's really based on how you use it. The Bible and astrology is just like the Bible with magic. The Bible loves this magic when it's dedicated to Yahweh. The Bible calls it wicked, black magic, evil, when it's dedicated towards another god. Now, some of the first ways that we can express this thought process and this conversation is to look at it. When you look at it historically, ancient people utilized astrology as a part of their understanding of the universe and their understanding of their God. This was something that pretty much every culture would do. You can't name a culture that didn't look up at the stars and think that they were receiving messages or divining things based on the God of their belief. Every culture has done this. And the overwhelming majority of these cultures, they saw meteorites, eclipses, and constellations as the divining rod for the wisdom of their God. And although you have had church fathers, especially in Christianity, who have been against it since about the second, third century. You've had different ones who have preached about it, different ones who have written letters about it, all the way up to you get to the Protestant Reformation with Martin Luther. He, in his table talk, was vehemently against any form of astrology. Where on the other hand, you had Christian organizations of Christian kingdoms during the Renaissance time frame, where Queen Elizabeth I, she had John Dees was her personal astrologer. You had the Queen of France, who wanted Nostradamus to confirm the prediction of her husband's death in 1566. You have had astrologers in the Enlightenment age where Christianity was fine with astrology. But the question bearing down is, what does their book say? What does their book teach them? How should they view astrology based on their book? And this is going to demonstrate, what this is going to demonstrate for us who have walked away from this religion, is the fact that it is very hypocritical, and that the modern day teachings of Christianity has changed, and they're not actually following their Bible. They pick a verse here, verse there, that tells them that they should not follow this, that they should not pay attention. Like Isaiah 43, 13 through 14, strictly forbids the practice of divination, and sorcery, which to them includes astrology. So when you have things like Deuteronomy 18 through 14 and Isaiah 47 through 13 and 14, which tells you to stay away from astrology, stay away from the divination, then that's what they hold on to. And then they have their stories like in Daniel, where the astrologers couldn't interpret the dream of Nebuchadnezzar. But then Daniel was able to divine the dream of Nebuchadnezzar. Does that not seem a little contradictory? That he is saying that, oh, your astrologers can't do it, but I can. It's about the same way as Moses throwing down his staff and doing some magic and it turned into a serpent. Or rather, Aaron throwing his staff down and it turned into a serpent. And then the Egyptian priests throw their staff down, it turned to serpents. Are they not both participating in magic? Just one based on one God and the other was based on the other? When they turn the water into blood and they both turn the water into blood, is that not the same thing? Now, Michael brought up one of the verses that I just mentioned. And the key element here is when it says you be down, wait a minute. You see the sun and the moon and the stars, all the hosts of heaven. Let me put this up so y'all can see it clearly. So it says, and beware lest you raise your eyes to heaven, and when you see the sun, the moon, the stars, all the hosts of heaven, you be drawn away and bow down to them and serve them. things that the Lord your God has allotted to all the people under the whole heaven. The key phrasing here is bow down to them and serve them. So this is not an indictment on the practice of astrology, the practice of divination, the practice of any of those things. It is on the act of bowing down to them, worshiping them, looking at what a Christian would say, the creative instead of the creator. But of course, in today's world and in many time frames, this was looked upon as evil because not because people didn't know how to do it, but because you couldn't control the people who was doing it. See, it's one thing when Daniel is divining dreams. It's another thing when Joseph is divining the dreams of the baker and the cupbearer and then Pharaoh in the story. Is he not participating in divination? And he's doing it for, both of them are doing it for foreign kings. What's the difference between them breaking down the dream and someone else? What's the difference between the Roman soldiers casting lots for Jesus's supposed cloak, his robes? That's not frowned upon. So the frowning is worshiping it. And here's the thing about astrology that amazes me. Before I talk about the great year and that sort of thing and the constellations, this God brags about it. He brags about it in Job. In Job, when he's fussing at Job, he asks him like, hey, did you put Orion in the sky? Did you put the great bear in the sky? Did you create the Pleiades? Did you place the Mazzaroth? How many of you guys know what the Mazzaroth is? What does Mazzaroth mean? You got to Google it real quick. Hurry up. Tim just straight up, I don't know. I don't know, says Rob Key. Mazzaroth, when in Job, when this guy says Mazzaroth, and this is the only time this word is used in the Bible. Well, Mazzaroth means the constellations. It is a direct statement that this God put the constellations in the sky. Now, if you're not supposed to deal with the constellation, not supposed to deal with the zodiacs, it's more recently people try to translate it as constellation, but truly in ancient times they translated that to zodiacs. If Christians, if Bible believers are not supposed to acknowledge or work with the zodiacs, why would this God go through the process of when he fussing at Job to expressly say that he put the zodiacs in the sky? You see what I'm talking about? How does that make any sense? I'm gonna make it a part of my arguing at you, my fussing at you for questioning me. The fact that I'm the one who put the Pleiades, Orion, the bear, and the zodiacs in the sky. And if he was just talking about constellations, why is there a separation between the bear, Orion, and then Mazzaroth? That's why it should always be translated as the zodiacs. And this is precisely what many Christians will do. They will just brush it off. Just brush it off. In the same way they brush that off, They brush off the fact of what was it that let the wise men in the East, the Magi, who, this is where we get our word magician, what let them know the baby Jesus was supposedly born? What let them know? I know y'all know this one, so it shouldn't take long for you to start typing that one in. Okay, but you are defeating the statement by which we are about to talk. We are talking about right now. The main issue is using them for guidance or divination, which the Bible strongly warns against. Right. Stars, the star. All right. So, Michael, here's the problem with that statement. The Bible strongly warns against you using them for guidance and divination. The star was used for what two words that you just spoke, just typed in order to, let me rephrase it. Let me phrase it like this way, so I ain't waiting on your response. Did the wise men use this star to divine that Jesus was supposedly born? Did the wise men use this star to guide them to where Jesus was supposedly born? So if the main issue is using them for guidance and divination, and that is strongly warned against, did not the so-called wise men use it to guide them and for divination? You see how that argument doesn't work. And that's in Matthew, right? That's in Matthew. In Luke, what was used when the angel, supposedly Gabriel, talked to the shepherds in the fields? What did he say to them? What did he say to them? And I almost have this memorized because when I was in church, I used to play the role of Gabriel during the Christmas production. When he started out and he said to the shepherds, "Do not be afraid, for a child is born unto you. And this shall be a sign for you." What the hell was the "this that shall be a sign for you" that guided them and divined to them about baby Jesus being in the manger? This will be a sign to you, and you will find a baby in swaddling clothes wrapped in a manger. What was the sign? What was the sign in Luke? It was a star. It was a star. Now, I'm curious, how do wise men from the East, now it doesn't say they were going east, but they're from the East, which would indicate that they were going east, and they were Zoroastrian for the most part, and they found their way to Jerusalem, somehow going west from the land of Persia, from the Persian lands. They somehow followed the star in the east to go west, to go to Bethlehem, and then follow the star southeast to Bethlehem. And then this star was supposedly hovering above the house that they found the baby Jesus. Now, we know stars don't act that way, but they thought that they could back then. So how do they do that? But they are following a star. And is that not a contradiction regarding the wise men? The Bible says the stars, along with the sun and the moon, are given for signs and seasons. That is what they were meant to mark time for us. Stars do not mark time for us. The sun and the moon The sun helps us with seasons. The moon really doesn't have anything to do with seasons. The moon is more dedicated towards tides. But so as far as seasons, no. So, but what are signs? Signs of what? You have to divine what the signs are. You see what I'm saying? You might want to try to wiggle around it as much as you can, but if something is given to you as a sign, do you not have to divine what the sign means? When you first went to take your driving test and you saw that octagon sign that's painted red, what do you divine that sign to mean? Does it just tell you that it's going to be winter or fall? But you have to divine what that sign means. You see, so thank you for throwing up Genesis 1:14 for me. And I knew this would happen. Y'all gonna give me your own information that contradicts. Because if something is a sign for something, just like this star that these wise men follow, this star that the shepherds follow to the baby Jesus, then they had to divine it. So Daniel was wrong for divining the dream of Nebuchadnezzar. Joseph was wrong for divining the dream of Pharaoh, the cupbearer, as well as the bread maker, the baker. Was he wrong for divining his dream of him ruling over his brothers? Because is that not all divination? So we still have them doing it. And then you may say, all right, this. And then some may say, well, Jesus never used any of that. But did he? Did he not? When the disciples came to Jesus and they were getting ready to go into Jerusalem, they asked Jesus, to whose house will we go in? Jesus said to them, find a man carrying a pitcher of water. Into his house we will go. How many of y'all know what that means? What that mean? Give y'all a minute. What is the symbol of Aquarius? What does Aquarius look like? I wonder. I'm curious. Because we got Jesus talking about going into, and understand this, in their time frame, men, and even today actually, but in their time frame and even in today, men do not carry water. Carrying water is considered to be a woman's job. It's an embarrassment to a man who has to carry water. So why would Jesus tell them to do something that they should not be able to find, which is a man carrying a pitcher of water? So what could he possibly have been talking about if he's talking about a man carrying a pitcher of water? Right, Boondock. I was wondering where you was at, Boondock, because this is right up your alley. This is the symbol most often in Aquarius. Now, and some modern day artists may put a woman up there. But the constellation of Aquarius is represented by a man carrying a pitcher of water and pouring that water out. So if Jesus was saying, and I already know Boondocks, you can't answer this. If Jesus was telling his disciples, his 12 disciples, that we will go into the house of the man carrying a pitcher of water, and this is the ending of the Jesus time frame. What are zodiacs called? Each zodiac is called a house. So to specifically say that is talking about the zodiacs. And the thing about it, it fits the ages of the great wobble, the great year, I should say. So the earth wobbles on its axis. We all understood that and learned that in school. Right, Macy? He was referring to the new age of Aquarius. So the earth wobbles on its axis. And as it wobbles on this axis, the sun goes into a new age, a new house, a new zodiac at the 30th degree. It leaves an age at the 33rd degree. Now, this takes somewhere around 2,100 and some odd years, right? So all these 2,000 some odd years equals the great year, where the sun comes into a house and leaves a house. This is, I couldn't find one that had the English or the normal zodiacs, but I found, well, I couldn't get one to download that had that. But in India, in what is it? In this religion, they have a similar teaching with the zodiacs. It's like this wasn't something that one group of people recognized. This was recognized by multiple people around the world. The Aztecs, the Mayans, the Hopi, multiple civilizations recognize this sun moving into these different houses over long stretches of time. And you have to imagine people had to watch this for generations and generations and generations in order to figure this out. So this is not like one crackpot person who came up with this. This is people over an incredibly long time to be able to recognize that that there's a system to this thing. And of course, let me go back to that one. One of the shared thoughts in many civilizations is that there are golden ages, silver ages, bronze ages, iron age, and then it goes back to bronze, silver, and back to a golden age. And this is golden ages of man and thought. So there's a lot more to it. So Michael, what you don't want to accept, and I understand, you believe in the Bible. I'm assuming you believe in the Bible, and I can understand your resistance to it. The Bible warns against divination or to predict personal events in astrology, as you're trying to incorrectly prove. But yet, I just showed you ways that the Bible is okay with it, right? So are you saying that Joseph and his divination was evil? Daniel and his divination, evil. Jesus, speaking of going into another house, the house of Aquarius, is evil. Jesus representing the age of Pisces, which I know Boondocks could talk all day about that. You see how you are, because of what you've been taught now, if you got to go against it. If you grew up during the Renaissance era and in Europe, you would have been perfectly fine with with astrology, because during the Renaissance era, it was fine. Prior to that, no. After that, no. It has some back and forward actually after that. But during the first century, this was fine. If you was with Jesus with some walk around money, then you would have been perfectly fine with the astrology, because you would have to then admit that, okay, so the wise men were wrong to follow a star. The shepherds were wrong to follow a star. Jesus must have been talking about something else when he's talking about going into a man's house who's carrying some water. That doesn't work. And to give you an idea of how these things in the Renaissance were projected out to people, when Da Vinci drew his Last Supper, painted his Last Supper meal, right? Look, I'm sorry, y'all. He is trying really hard not to do it. He's sticking with the same thing, mark, time, and place. But and earlier he said, and he admitted, it's signs, right? If it's a sign of something, you divine it. It's okay though, man. I'm gonna leave you alone. I'm gonna leave you alone. So when you look at his picture, many have broke it down. The hand positionings of each of the disciples, uh, them being grouped together in the process, in such a way to demonstrate the seasons. But each one of them, he was doing this with astrology because that was the thought process in the Renaissance. And the church had no problem with him doing it. Now, in other time frames, had the church had problems with people saying that there was astrology and Christians should participate in it? Sure. Now, as we were talking about ages, though, I often wonder, most people look at, oh, Moses got mad because they did the golden calf, and they try to say, and even I once thought that this was them worshiping the golden calf, was worshiping Hathor, that they were worshiping Hathor. But and then there's an archaeological site that sits on the other side of the Red Sea in Saudi Arabia that has a port, an ancient port, and they have a temple to Hathor at that port. And it was like the main port you went to before you crossed the Red Sea. So it made sense. But as you further discover the Bible and some of the astrological things that's in it, you recognize that the age of the bull was during the time frame from Adam to Moses. So when Moses got mad, it was because they had moved into the age of the ram. They went from Taurus to Aries. And then the movement from Moses, and that's why they blow the shofar, still blow that horn. They still blowing it to this day as a representation of the age of Aries, the age of the ram. And Jesus, of course, became the age of Pisces. And a lot of the things you see within the baptism by water, all the be a fisher of man, everything is around fishing and fish. And then supposedly we are in around 2150, should be moving into the age of Aquarius. We're theoretically in this transition time. There were stone carved paintings of Taurus constellation in France. The paintings were 12,000 to 40,000 years old. You're getting, and then he asks, now how did the caveman know about astronomy? You're messing up my punchline, man. You're messing up my punchline. You're getting too far ahead of me from the punchline. So I'm gonna tell you the punchline, then we'll just work our way back through it. But the punchline is that man has looked up at the stars and man has created images in the stars. They recognized that they were movements and how the stars moved and how it appeared to move to them, how planets appeared to move. They created gods out of planets, with Mercury and Jupiter. These names, Mercury, Jupiter, Mars, Venus, these are all gods to them. And then they thought retrograde happens, which it doesn't. It only appears to happen. But this is just things that man made up trying to understand his universe, trying to understand what he sees up in the sky. And that's all it really is. They're just seeing what's in the sky and trying to decide and give it meaning because they're trying to understand it. They're looking to understand it. When has Isis been? I've never heard of Isis being represented by a bull. The bull was Isis. Having the little circular sun disk with the horns on it, that's always represented Hathor, even though she wore it and many pharaohs wore it as well, or queen mothers as well wore it, but I've never seen her being represented by the bull. Let me see something. But I don't. Right. Her animal symbol was a bird, a hawk, or a kestrel. Yeah, because she's always had the wings. Oh, y'all been typing and I ain't been looking. The age of Pisces was also the age of deception. Uh, Isaac, you must not have heard me when I said that. Or you must be talking to the other guy because I said that. But there are so many other times that it's supposed to. So for the Bible believers out there and for my other people, right? A third of the stars falling from the sky in Revelations. Are you supposed to divine something from that? A meteorite of wormwood falling from the sky and poisoning the water. Are you supposed to divine something from that? Are they supposed to mark a time of something? Are there some divinations that you pull from that? Or are those just events that just happen in nature? Okay, Isaac, I see. I mean, you got to see, in order for a person who believes in this book to say that all astrology is evil and you're supposed to do it, and they're just grasping on to what's in Isaiah, you know, the parts of Isaiah that goes against it, the parts of Deuteronomy that goes against it, then how do you grapple with what it means, you being able to say the end time is happening because a third of the skies fell out? For you to be able to say, oh, when he empty out one of them bowls or read one of them scrolls, a third of the stars are going to fall from the sky. Is that not a sign of a divination? That when this asteroid hit, is that not a sign of this divination? When you are saying that, hey, there's wars and rumors of wars and there will be all these earthquakes and all this stuff, are you not divining things? I mean, it sounds like divination to me. You looking at natural events occurring and you deciding things. When Jesus supposedly was resurrected, There was an earthquake, according to Matthew, but according to a couple other ones, Matthew, Mark, and I believe John, wasn't there an eclipse? Wasn't there supposed to be an eclipse happen? Does that eclipse have any representation? When Joshua said, Lord, I need to keep fighting, we need to win, and he made the sun stand still for 12 additional hours, is that not a sign? Was that not something to divine? Do Christians and Bible believers rather not just look at that as an indication of God being on Joshua's side? Did the eclipse not be an indication of the resurrection of Jesus? I mean, if you're not supposed to divine anything from the skies, why is the Bible so filled with it? Why are there 12 tribes, 12 apostles, and there's 12 zodiacs? Now, I know somebody's going to say there's actually 13. That's based on the lunar calendar, and they were lunar calendar people. But who would be the 13th? Jesus. But Jesus had to replace the sun god that everybody else was worshiping. So Jesus had to be the sun god, and we got to get rid of what's it called? Orpheus. What is it? Somebody wrote it earlier. Boondocks probably wrote it earlier than him. I saw somebody write it. It was probably Boondocks, is what I'm saying. Yeah, Ophiuchus. See, when it was lunar, it was fine. You got 13. Then Jesus come around. Oh, he got to be the sun. He can't be Ophiuchus. He got to be the sun, because all these sun worshipers, when the Romans and the Greeks and the Egyptians and all these other people. So Jesus having been the 13th one, he has to be the sun. And they were still believing this, still following this Renaissance time frame. They're still doing the same stuff. Jesus is the sun, the 12 representing each one of the zodiacs. Yeah, and to the Hebrew, because they don't believe in the Jesus Messiah, the Levites would have been the 13th. Ophiuchus. Yeah, I'm gonna call it Big O. How about that? And how about the entire storytelling? This whole, why do we say there are three wise men? You go talk to any Christian, almost any Christian who has not really studied their Bible, but what they have been taught through doctrine and through normal teachings. And if you ask them how many wise men showed up, they say how many? Three, right? Three wise men. Why three wise men? Isn't that interesting that three wise men show up to the birth of Jesus? Where could they have possibly gotten that from? Oh, maybe they got it from the fact that not only the Egyptians, but many cultures recognize that the sun starts setting north, start rising and setting northward, and the days start to become longer than the night. Starting from December 25th, the birth of Jesus, as the three stars of Orion's belt or Heru's belt point towards the womb of Isis or the star Sirius. And it's one at a time they're almost in direct alignment, almost a straight line that points to the rising of the sun. When the days start becoming a little bit longer and you have hope that you will make it through the winter. Is that not astrology? The fact that more Christians than not will say 3 wise men and Jesus' birthday is on the 25th, and that Jesus went into the grave for 3 days. That can't have anything to do with astrology, right? Oh, except for the fact that the sun stops setting and moving south for 3 days near the Southern Crux constellation, and then starts rising 1 degree north on December 25th. So the sun dies on the cross and is in the grave for 3 days. Sound a little astrology to me, that Jesus just so happened to die on a cross and is in the grave supposedly for 3 days and then resurrects. Sounds a little suspicious, like what happens with the sun every year during the winter solstice. Does that not sound like astrology? Sounds a little astrologist to me. And many people probably don't think about this, but if this Jesus character actually existed, his actual birthday would actually be in the first month of the new year, not January 1st, but in April. April will be his first day. The new year for a new king. Now, I know as far as the December 25th things, many people are going to, Christians like to say that, I forgot which early church father it was, it might have been Jerome, who decided that at the time frame of Mary meeting with Elizabeth and them having John the Baptist, that the time frame would end up being December 25th, because he said the conception had to be March 25th. So that is where they try to figure it out. The Bible says that those things, like spirit divination and necromancy, works. I was going to get to that. Thank you, Isaac. Because isn't it interesting that these things that they claim that they work, according to the Bible, the necromancer of Endor successfully summoned the spirit of Samuel from the grave, and the Bible called him a god. As she was summoning Samuel, she asked Samuel, "What do you see?" And she responded, "I see a God coming out of the earth." Christians should all believe that this stuff is real, because even if it wasn't done for the sake of their God, according to their story, necromancy works. They thought it worked. They said they believe it worked. So I don't want y'all. I want y'all to do this. The next time you're talking to a Christian, ask them, do they believe that necromancy works? That a person can bring somebody back from the dead. Not Jesus, a person, any other person can bring somebody back from the dead. And when they do, remind them of Samuel being brought back from the dead. Yeah, they got cursed out for it, but remind them of that. But yep, Saul spoke to a woman of divination, got in trouble for that one. And that's the thing, when Saul spoke to the woman of divination, she did a necromancy spell to bring Samuel back. I mean, Jesus called a dead man out of a cave. So isn't that necromancy as well? Bringing Lazarus back to life. They like to use the term resurrected, but resurrection is just a fancy term for necromancy. Jesus himself then, necromancy. The 500 zombies walking around Jerusalem with some walk around money, necromancy. If Jesus did some necromancy 2 times, it must work. And Jesus did say that there will be those that the one people will other people after him would do greater things than he did. That the believers, they did he not say believers would do greater things than he? And damn, he did some necromancy. Now, Raph says that they're not even supposed to be studying necromancy, and it's supposed to be something that you're not supposed to do. But Jesus did it twice, and then said that others are going to do greater things than him. So if Jesus is telling people that they're going to do greater miracles than he did, and 2 times necromancy was one of his things, I mean, well, I guess you can count 3, since he necromancied himself. And I mean, Jesus talked about the age of Aquarius. His birth was signaled by some stars. So, and his death on the cross by an eclipse. How can the Christian deny that they're not supposed to pay attention and divine things from the stars, from the sky? How can they deny divining things from dreams when it was done by Daniel and Joseph? That the entire thing of John, of the Revelations from John of Patmos, is a big fucking dream. And in that dream, you got some more stuff, stars falling from the sky, meteorites of wormwood. So the question of should Christians, should believers of this book practice astrology is yes and no. Their Bible outlaws it on many occasions, but every time it outlaws it, it's outlawing it for one of 2 reasons. If it's being done by someone else who is not being done for their God, for that particular God, or if they start to worship that power. If they worship that power. So all those times you was in church and you were told that you weren't supposed to do the astrology, even though you meet somebody in church and they're like, what's your sign? Oh, I see why he acting up. I see why she tripping, because she a Gemini. She a Gemini. That's twin personalities right there. That's why we call that bipolar today. But that's twin personality. She a Gemini. That's why one day she acting one way and the next day she acting another way, because she a Gemini. Mm-hmm. Oh, I ain't dating no Capricorn man. I can't deal with no Capricorn. Them Capricorn. Oh, you got a Taurus woman? Oh, they bullheaded. Them Taurus women are bullheaded. Can't be dealing with them. They bullheaded. Oh, she's so sweet. She a Virgo. She a Virgo. That's why she's so nice. And them Aquariuses, they always so wise. They always so wise. Why are they doing that? They believe in it. They follow it. They accept it. It is part of their religion. It is a part of their religion that they ignore. And that is why this God doesn't want them doing it unless they are praising him in the act of doing so. Because if man was able to divine from the stars, divine from the sky, and make his own decisions, well, this God would not have control of them. I mean, if we think of when the Greeks would decide to go to battle or not go to battle, they would go and they would check the oracles of Delphi, and oh, this is a good time to go to war. This is a bad time to go to war. No, speaking in tongue wouldn't be considered necromancy. That speaking in tongue is supposed to be two things. One, speaking and everybody around you hear you in their native tongue. Two, speaking some unknown language to God, to this God. That's it. But this God loves to utilize the very thing he tells Christians not to utilize, as long as it's for his benefit. He cussing out Job. I put the zodiacs, the Mazzaroth, in the sky. It's when he cussing Job out. I put Orion in the sky. I put the bear in the sky. I put the Pleiades in the sky. But the fact that he specified that he put the zodiacs with the Mazzaroth in the sky is a clear indication of such. What's another time? Yeah, it does say if someone is speaking in this unknown tongue, that someone should be there to interpret it. If not, then shut the hell up. Of course, they don't do that in most cases. Can y'all think of another time where divination was used, astrology was used for the sake of this God? So um, we talked about Joseph, we talked about Moses, we talked about um, Daniel, talked about Job, talked about Samuel, well, Saul. We talked about Jesus. I did buy hunger. Talked about the wise men. Talked about the shepherds. We did talk about Revelations with John Patmos. Whole lot of. This is a legitimate question because I've exhausted my brain right now of all the ones that I thought about and wrote down. I'm just saying if I missed anybody, if I missed an opportunity here of another time frame where they utilize in one of their stories any type of astrology to either divine something or as a symbol of something or to guide them in some format. So I named all those. I just want to make sure I got all of them before we move on to another subject matter. I don't think there's another time frame that we can pinpoint definitively. So we got all the ones for Jesus. Samson didn't really use anything that was astrological as far as I can remember. Um, that was more about him being a Nazarene, never having his hair cut, and him being stupid because Delilah got that good pum pum that he couldn't resist. I don't recall any astrology within that one, within his storyline. Nope, there wasn't. I'm just running through that storyline in my head real quick. I can't recall any. Well, we got I don't know this calling down fire from heaven by Isaiah. Not is it Isaiah? No, Elijah. I mean, Elijah called down some fire from heaven to cook those people, which was kind of cruel as hell. Uh, who had a good pum pum? Delilah. Delilah had that good pum pum. Why would a man tell a woman who not tried to trick his ass 2 times the truth about where he gets his power from? Unless she gotta have some good pum pum. Otherwise, we ain't telling you shit. The pum pum is undefeated. Ask Judah. Judah tell you about it. Tamara got that good pum pum too. There's a part of me that seems to think that Moses had the pillar of fire, Elijah had the pillar of fire. That really doesn't speak to astrology. It's some magic shit, but it's not astrology. It's not any kind of divination. I think that's about it. I think that's about all the astrology, but that is enough. You got all the statements that are negative towards it, right? You got all your statements. Don't do divination. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't worship it. We got all of that. But we got astrology so many other times. You know, whether we're talking about the uh, the stars for the shepherds and the wise men to find Jesus, Jesus dying on the Southern Cross, Jesus having a eclipse when he was doing his thing, the eight when he was supposedly resurrecting, the what's called the going into the house of Aquarius. That's 5 just on Jesus, just on Jesus. All right, got 5 on Jesus. Then in Revelations, we got an asteroid coming down. We got stars from the heavens falling. Uh, just sticking with the astrology thing, thought processes. All right. Oh, there was another one. It just dawned on me. We also, I knew there was one more, but you got Daniel interpreting dreams. You got Joseph interpreting dreams. And Joseph interpreted 3 dreams, so we can count him 3 times. So we had 21. We got the age of Aries, Taurus, Pisces. So we had 24. I already counted age of Aquarius. So we got 24 instances thus far of them doing this shit. We got the necromancy of Saul. That's 25, right? Uh, and then we got one that I almost forgot. Please answer, is God real? No. It's certainly not the God of the Bible. If there is a God, he is not, that God is not in any of the books that any of these people have written, in none of these religions. But I forgot there's one more that I forgot. Yeah, Mary does represent Virgo, but you know what else represents Virgo, which is represented by the planet Venus? It's in Isaiah. Who also is represented by the planet Venus / Virgo? Now, it's not a true representation, but it is an astrological event. Come on now. I just did a video. It was part of a video I did earlier today, and not the one about astrology. There you go, Dwayne. Lucifer. The whole story of Lucifer. Lucifer is only mentioned twice in the Bible. And it has nothing to do with Satan, it has nothing to do with the serpent, it has nothing to do with the beast, it has nothing to do with none of that. But it has everything to do with how the planet Venus, that they thought was a star, appears to fall from the sky at the rising of the sun. Because it is where the sun will rise, the light bringer. So Lucifer is an astrological event. It is something that even to this day you can go outside and witness. Where did man come from? From their ancestors, and from their ancestors, and from their ancestors, to a point that we do not know, but from their ancestors, from the earth. There is absolutely zero proof of man being created in a poof by a god. But Lucifer is an astrological event. So that's 26. You can pick any 26. Well, one of them was negative, but you can pretty much pick 25 events where positivity. Well, you can count 27, and you can have 26. The casting of lots for the clothing of Jesus was done. It was something that's supposed to have been done to divine which Roman soldier was going to get his clothes, and that was supposed to be some level of prophecy for them. So divination wins again. Yes, Roxanne. In where do you get that coming go? In Revelation, Jesus is referred to as Lucifer, as the light bringer. And no one will be able to ever say who was the first man, who was the first woman. What we do know is that it takes male and female to create anything. So who was the first? You'll never be able to know. Well, we won't know. We don't know. But what we do know is man has been on this planet, even if we just started with Homo sapiens, they didn't go into the other Homo erectus and Neanderthals and all of them. Homo sapiens been on the planet for about what, 200,000 years at least? At least. A modern man has been on the planet that long. But what we do know is we didn't poof. We're not made out of clay, that's for damn sure. So we're in the part of the show now where we're talking about anything. But the Bible definitely demonstrates that there is a part of astrology that Christians should believe in. And the zodiacs is definitely one of them, since their God claims to have put it in the sky. So now, as they would say, the doors of the church are now open for other conversations. Doors of a church. About 30 good minutes, 30, 40 minutes on this cigar right here, the way, unless y'all don't talk to me, unless we need to talk about something. Now, I've never been one for astrology rather. I love astronomy, but not astrology. And I know the study of astronomy comes out of astrology. There, I see that there can be some coincidences or some coinkydinks. But the alignment, the positioning of the stars in the sky have not always been the same, and they will continuously change. At some point, they will be very, very different. As the Earth ages, as it moves through the Milky Way galaxy, it will change. It will never stay the same. As I said on the video earlier, the video I published earlier, the moon is moving away from the Earth at about 3 centimeters a year. We will never live to see it, but there will come a time frame where a complete solar eclipse cannot happen. This is why when Christians like that, oh, the moon is the perfect size and the perfect distance. Now it is, but a billion years from now it won't be. A billion years from now, it may not even be in Earth's orbit. But whether you believe in astronomy or not, it is just like a hammer. It's not good or bad. It's just a tool. It's just a tool. It is nothing more than a tool. And I refuse to accept that tool, because I'll be damned if the day, time, and location of my birth determines who I am. I refuse that, because my experiences supersede all of that. My culture supersedes all of that. My critical thinking supersedes all of that. Who I am is not derived from where the sun, the moon, the stars were on October 15th, 1971 at 8:08 a.m. And yes, you can go do my birth chart. I've done a natal chart, and some things do seem coincidental. But there are some things on there that are just flat out wrong. So now, the War of the Gods. I would use the War of the Gods, but that's in the book of Enoch, so that's why I didn't use the War of the Gods. It's quoted in other books like Jude, but that's why I didn't use it. If we went through the Enochian literature, we would see more astrology. Right. Now, I've seen some people use that tool to benefit their lives. Your sign is the blueprint. Of course, it can be altered, but that's core. They never change, but the core never changes. Now, the core of you can change. We just talked about that last night when we talked about magic mushrooms. Your core personality can change if you want it to. It's up to you. What? Is this a joke, Stephanie? I was born during an eclipse and the moon. That's why I may have developed cerebral palsy. Cerebral palsy. My mom said that when she said I was ready to come, the doctor was looking at the eclipse of the moon and said, "Oh no, you have time." I know you got to be joking. I'm gonna take that as a joke. Yeah, I will agree. You do a birth chart, a natal chart. It a lot. Some of the things you'll look at and be like, "Damn, that's on point." But there were things that I was like, "Nah, that ain't got nothing to do with me." And numerology, to a certain extent, I never really got hardcore into numerology. A lot of the numerology coincide with astrology. The 666 is talking about Nero, because in the Latin is 616, which in both cases it spells out the name of Nero. It is not anything else. Y'all typing too fast. Oh, I don't doubt that you born in 19 that day on 1970 eclipse, but that's why you got cerebral palsy. That part, that part. I don't know if you have it for real or not, but that's just funny. That's why I thought you were joking, because how you said the doctor looked up the moon and said you got time. But mm, anyway, so if all hearts and minds are clear on that subject matter, we can talk about some other stuff. The lines of communication are open. You got your ball. We can talk about the origins of consciousness and how consciousness aligns with AI. Uh, I think AI is still far away from having independent consciousness or achieving consciousness to the level where it has is self-determining and have agency. Uh, the origins of our consciousness, the energy has always been there. We just derive it from our parents and through all of our ancestors. Where it originates from, it's infinite, and it happened. It all coalesced in you. Oh, your mother told you that for. Like, I've told my children some crazy stuff. For a long time, my kids thought that when it rained real hard, about 10,000 birds spitting on them. These parents be saying some stuff. But if she did say that, that sounded like some of those them roots back in the day. Well, she was born on an eclipse, and because she was born on an eclipse, that's why she got that going on with her. And just like they say that if a woman uh, has a baby during a full moon, then the baby will come out. The baby is going to drool a lot. Right? Energy is consciousness. Everything is energy. Am I self-taught? Yes and no. I've sat under the tutelage of many other people, but not in a formal school. Ooh, this is good. Is there a difference between speaking things into existence and prayer? Yes. Oftentimes, frame when people who are now, let me put it in context. Praying about something is you asking some outside force to deliver something to you. And even sometimes those people who are speaking things into existence are doing that in a form of prayer, looking for something outside of themselves. But when you use the vibrational energy of the tongue to speak the mental imagery or mental desires that you want, that is coming from you. So the nuance there is, are you looking for something on the outside to produce it, or are you looking to produce it yourself? And I can tell you that looking on the outside to produce it, it's not going to happen. Even those people who pray, but then they go out and they do the work, it still came from them. But yeah, Stephanie, cerebral palsy doesn't come from the moon, from you being born during an eclipse. I don't know exactly where cerebral palsy comes from, but it's damn sure don't come from the moon. If that's the case, everybody born during an eclipse would be. Are you saying that there is no Satan or God? Are you saying that the monkeys got too smart? I am saying that there is no Satan nor God outside of yourself, that the only God and Satan is inside yourself. But we do not come from monkeys. So there is that part. Monkeys are an entirely different species that cannot produce man. Hmm. And yes, speaking something into existence comes from vision slash prayer, but only if it's coming from the inside to equal your dream. It's going to get you your results. But to think that man came from monkeys, you should go and study the evolutionary theory in order to truly understand it. Common ancestor, but not the common ancestor wasn't a monkey. That's an impossibility and huge improbability. There you go. Oxygen cut off from the brain during birth. This was a great study. If you've never studied this, we talked about it like years ago. But Dr. Emoto's study on frequency and energy and the patterns that it creates, especially the I thought that and the water experiment. I actually did that water experiment myself, and it works exactly the same. It came out the same way that theirs did. Do you think there are conscious beings in the universe? Of course, of course. There are conscious beings in the universe that are similar to us, and there will probably a bunch of them that are hugely dissimilar, where we wouldn't be able to survive on the same planet. Just mathematically, it will be impossible for there not to be other conscious beings out in the universe. Oh, what you were saying is that praying is the same as dreaming. Okay, I misread that. Gotcha. You're right. And every one gonna move you closer to your goal. right? No monkey will ever become a man, nor has one ever became a man. It's funny, both of y'all typed this at the same time. See how this is called the shared mind within the ether. When people have the same ideas at the same time. This is why if there's a business you want to start or a house you want to buy or whatever, somebody else got the same damn idea because brain, mind frequencies, thoughts, energy is energy and it goes out into what we would commonly just call the ether, but it just goes out. And people receive that information. What do you think when kids act the way that a older? What's wrong with you, dumb? I don't even know what you're trying to say. You might want to rewrite that one. Well, there were humans when there were dinosaurs. Actually, there's no proof that humans and dinosaurs were on the planet at the same time. Is it possible? But we haven't found any skeletal remains that are at the same time of dinosaurs. Persons acting, and an older person says that that child has been here before. Oh, where did I always found that interesting because I was like, you Christian, but you talking about reincarnation. You Christian, but you I don't know where that saying started, where it came from, but it is very reincarnation oriented. I don't think that any people from another planet has ever been to Earth. I will not be teeing up another cigar. Lucy is not a human, not a humanoid. Lucy is an ancient chimpanzee. Closer study of Lucy has shown that it's an ancient chimpanzee, which is on a different evolutionary scale than humans. So Lucy is not a human. It's an ancient chimpanzee. The Great Pyramids were built by civilizations that were around before the last ice age, as well as the Sphinx. And the last ice age and the Younger Dryas flood, freeze and flood got rid of them. Coach, do you believe in telepathy? Is that what you are saying? Believe that you can communicate with someone through frequency, uh, something that is just coincidence? I tried it seriously. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. There is a way, our brains are receptors and our brain sends out frequencies. The challenge is getting yourself in a state where you can receive that information. Uh, some people would like to say, "Oh, it just hit me," or whatever, or you and you're with somebody and y'all say the same thing at the same time. There's just too many coincidences that demonstrate that there is some level. And since we know scientifically that brain waves do emit from your head, there is something there. We just haven't figured it out yet. And one of the things that hurt us from figuring it out is the fact that we keep saying that people tell us you can't do it. It's kind of like when they were saying that, oh, no one can run a mile in under 4 minutes. And it was believed to be unbreakable until somebody did it. And when somebody did it, now we got high schoolers doing it. And yeah, there are some reports out there with the CIA, Russia, China working on that experiments. The LSD experiments was part of that. The the remote viewing experiments were also part of that. Check out the remote viewing experiments from the CIA and their use of LSD in a lot of those things, in a lot of those experiments. Is the church a business to make money? Yeah, to make money and control the people with the help of the with as an adjunct to to governments. That's all the church is. And yes, we live and we die in the sense of the body stops being a container for our consciousness. What happens after? Nobody knows. Does your consciousness stay intact? Probably not. Because if your consciousness stayed intact, you would know what happened before you became you, but you don't. You have no idea what was going on or who you were or where your conscious energy, what your conscious energy was doing prior to your birth. And so you're not going to remember this life and know who you are. Your consciousness will go and do something else, but nobody knows exactly what it's going to do. So in a sense, you can say your consciousness does die. But I rather use the term it transmute into other forms of energy or into something else. You know, two people die at the same time, similar conscious energy, and it merges and goes and does something else because like attracts like. But it goes does something that will never be referred back to this. Do you think the devil is a victim? In the story, yeah. In the story, the serpent, the Satan, they're all victims. But there is no devil, just the one inside you. Yep. That's one of my favorite sayings. The body is a meat suit that holds your consciousness. And almost every modern day religion strips man of his higher self. Now, the mind white soul trap kind of goes to either the Silurian, oh, no, the reptilians. Is it the reptilians or Silurians? Which one got a base on the dark side of the moon? I forgot. And, and then it also goes to the demiurge of the Gnostic Christians. You ain't living forever as Robert Ben David Jr. What was Robert Ben David Jr. doing before he was born into the current form of Robert Ben David Jr.? Say your whole government name. Oh, it's the reptilians? The reptilians got that base on the other side of the moon, and what they do is that they are sucking up our energy, and then they send our consciousness back to live another life so they can suck up our energy again. Right. And that is what energy transmutation is. Your energy just transmuting into another form of energy, another collective. Do what you were born to do, and you don't have to worry about what happens after death. Exactly, Brian. And you get to decide what the hell your purpose is, what you were born to do. That is totally your decision. No God, no religion, no country, no family, no gender, no race. None of those things should be part of the decision of what you were born to do. Now, I'm with Boondocks on this one. We never left the collective. That would be, in order to leave I'm gonna use the term collective consciousness of the universe because every atom, every frequency, every piece, every minute to large mass of energy has a level of consciousness to it. You can't leave that because then you would have to leave nature, and there is nothing beyond nature. You have to leave the universe. There's nothing beyond the universe. The universe is all and total and complete. What's my favorite story of creation? The singularity. The singularity within the universe that is within that came from a singularity within the universe that came from a singularity that's within the universe that is infinitely singularities within the universe, and that electrons, protons, and neutrons all started being created and then got together and created molecules and continue to grow beyond that. Right, because like Boondock said, everything is connected. We are all connected. Disconnection keeps you from understanding and recognizing the fullness of who you are. I was born to live life, born to live the life I desire, to seek pleasure and to learn to love. Exactly. And see, religions don't like you seeking pleasure and learning to love now. You can't have none of that, especially that pleasure part. How dare you enjoy your life? Do you think the U.S. will ever be a Christian minority country? Of course it will. Of course it will. Before any Europeans got here, it was a Christian minority country. Even when they first got here, it was still a Christian minority country. One day Christianity will dissolve, and people will probably believe in some other stupid ass religion. But all countries were. There was a time frame when Italy was not a Christian majority country. Now it is. One day it won't be. I agree. I exist to learn and elevate. Exactly. But I am sick of humanity. Woo boy. When I look at the sky, I just want the aliens to come take me back to my real home because this can't be it. It's not, I need to be in another dimension. But to a certain extent, Roxanne, you are talking to yourself when you're interacting with others. You're just talking to separated embodiments of yourself when you're talking to others. And if we recognize this, then we will have no reason to war, because to kill someone else is to kill yourself. I can tell you right now, taking the life of another person, you lose a lot of your own life when you do so. You lose a lot of yourself when you do so. And then when you become more conscious of all the connections of everything, when you hurt another person, you hurt yourself. Is that a good movie? I've been meaning to watch it. Jupiter Ascending. But yeah, that's all. Now imagine how hard that would be to get the whole of humanity, 8 billion people, to come to the recognition that we are all connected and we are all one. We're so caught up into all these separate titles that most people will fight you over. Shit. Nationhoods, genders, race. Man would have to get past all of that. I think, yeah, I think we have the ability to cryogenically freeze people. Reanimating them, that's the hard part. Do you think there are other civilizations outside this galaxy? I think there's other civilization inside this galaxy. I think there are hundreds of millions of civilizations inside this galaxy. Inside our solar system, no. Inside this galaxy, hundreds of millions. Okay, I'm gonna take some time and try to watch this movie, Jupiter Ascending. I keep seeing it on. I forgot. I don't even know what platform it's on. I'm gonna try it out. Earth does seem like it's a prison planet. Like I said, oh, all the bad people who acted up in other solar systems and within the galaxy that are closer together. We're all going to send the bad people to this distant solar system where it's nowhere near anybody else, and we're going to let them. That's their prison, is to serve time there, because we fight about everything. We fight about resources as if we can actually own any resource. Yeah. And think about it. Yeah, humans are the only animal restricting themselves from free travel around the globe. Any other animal, if the environment is conducive, will go to any other part of the planet. If there's other life forms inside of our solar system, then their methodology of survival of life would be foreign to our own. Like, let's say within the thick clouds of Venus, there's life, a life form that lives in that acid rain soaked place. They wouldn't be able to survive on Earth in the same way we couldn't survive on that planet. But you think, but if there were, you unless they're underground, you think we'd be able to see the lights. But I wish there were another life forms on Mars or something like that. Granted, we probably have a race to try to kill each other. Then it'd be Earth against Mars. Yeah. And if Earth was a prison planet, you can make it into heaven if you want to. To lack of a better term, you can make it into whatever you want. I'm not exactly sure I understand what you're saying. I'm not crazy. Explain that teacher feeling like I had that conversation before. Are you talking about deja vu? Because if you're talking about deja vu, you could have dreamed it. I think we do. Time is irrelevant when it comes to dreams, when it comes to your subconscious. I do think we pierce the veil of time when we're in our dreams. Ah, you saying they don't necessarily have to be higher life form, probably um, organisms mostly. And I think some evidence of that was found on Mars. There had to be a time frame where other planets were in a habitable zone to the sun as far as the size of the sun, but just weren't there long enough to fully develop to the level that we're at, or the environment just wasn't right for it, and they couldn't go beyond that certain level. I would have to go and research him. I seen some of his videos a while back, but I can't really recall anything about what he said. Use. Oh, you know what? God dang it, that's another one. Thank you, Anton. Oh shit, what was that in? That was in with Moses and them in the whole Deuteronomy Leviticus time frame, where if you couldn't make a decision on something, then you are to use Urim and Thummim uh, to make a decision. Like, and you can use them in two ways. You can cast them, or you can have them in a pocket, and you reach in the pocket, and whichever one you pull out, if it's one, then the answer is yes. If it's the other, then the answer is no. So that was a form of divination as well. I forgot about your. I knew there was something I was forgetting. Thank you. That is another one. I'm not dreaming, but just talking to people I never before. I have no idea. Debrica, you are so late. As a reminder, people, since I got quite a few people on here right now, we are having a meetup here in San Antonio on October 31st through November 2nd. In the description, you will find a link to the Drury Plaza Hotel on Riverwalk, which is where we're going to be staying, where we got a discount. They have a free breakfast and a free supper at 5:30. So you can save some money on your meals. That's one of the reasons why this hotel was chosen. It's also center of town, so it gives you access to all the events and everything around town, in downtown, so everything is walkable. We will also have a Friday night meetup at Devil's River on their outside patio. Um, I will not be providing cigars. We will, but if you don't like cigars, just sit opposite of the wind from me. We will also be meeting on Saturday afternoon at the Japanese Tea Garden to have a conversation session. That Saturday, as well as in the evening, we will have a pool gathering uh, at the Drury Hotel. So I look forward to you guys joining. I need you to go ahead and get your reservations now. You don't have to pay for anything up front, but get your reservations now. I'm not doing anything else that requires you to pay for like a ballroom or anything of that sort. We will figure it all out as far as having conversations without having to pay for things. So in the description, you can sign up for it. Yes, I know I left you in Atlanta. I left you in Atlanta. Sorry, but I had to go. I'm tired of Atlanta. So come on out to San Antonio. You might act like me and Angelina and say, "Ooh, it's nice and warm at the end of October. Shh, I got to get out of Atlanta. Atlanta cold." No, Dexter, that's what I mean. I think that deja vu, and this is just my thought. Deja vu is really the fact that you, at some point, it doesn't. You can have a dream today, but it did not affect for 5 years. But I think that in that dream that you have tonight, you pierced the veil of time, had a conversation with somebody, and then 5 years you catch up and you're having that conversation, and you're like, "Damn, I know we talked about this before." Thank you, Deborah. Appreciate it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. But yeah, that's all. I don't think deja vu is anything more than that. Having conversation when you have those, like, whether it's a conversation or you're sitting there and then you're like a white truck about to drive down the street because you saw it before in a dream. There's no other waking time that you saw it, right? Because it's a future occurrence. Deja vu is never a past occurrence. It's always a future occurrence because it's happening in a future time frame. It's in your present, but you feel like you've already done it because back in your past you experienced it. So it's a future event. So, like Macy said, we live in the past, present, and future simultaneously. There's an old saying from a group that the time is a river, ever flowing in a circle, and you can all and time is a river ever flowing in a circle. You can pierce the veil at any moment. It's something like that. I'm saying it kind of messed up, but it's something like that. So basically, all things are happening at the same time. Yeah. But we have a consciousness that exists on one linear time, and that we can pierce that. We can pluck from the river. But of course, we have not known of anyone who have mastered the ability to do that in a conscious state, to do it at will. I know I'm with you, Boondoggle. I have deja vu like every other day. It's quite annoying. Funny that you mentioned it. He said Tahuti said something similar, because it's a saying from alchemy. It's an alchemical saying. So many different cultures express the same thing that learned alchemy. So there's a way to say it if you were from the Greek perspective. There's a way to say it from the Mithraic perception. There's a um, Buddhist thought process on it. There's Taoist thought process. Like multiple cultures have had this thought process. There's an Aztec thought process of it. But we are about to wind down, people, because I have no more cigar and I have no more coffee. So you know that means the end of the show. Sound went out on Facebook. I don't know about all that. No. Is anybody else on Facebook? Because other Facebook people ain't saying nothing like that. Never come. So I appreciate everybody for being here. It sound didn't go nowhere. That was your phone. That was your phone and your computer, Deborah. Uh so did you guys so do we have the understanding that Christians, Bible believers really should there is a format by which that they practice astrology and divinations. We showed 26 occasions when they would practice astrology or divination. Well, 27 because I forgot about Urim and Thummim. So yes, there are times when they shouldn't and how and ways that they shouldn't, but it is only dedicated to when they're doing it for. Good gosh, my eyes. Felt like something got in my eye. But there are times that they should do it, and if only they're doing it for their God and their beliefs, then they are fine with it. So they should be doing it for their God. They should be looking for these signs in the sky and divinations, and they should have Urim and Thummim, all these different things. They should be interpreting dreams. So they should be doing all those things, but yet they do not. They have allowed for the doctrine, and really it was a doctrine of some of the early Orthodox Christian fathers prior to the Council of Nicaea. So it's not just the Romans, but some of these early doctrines, and most of them were Gentiles, though, who started to put a negative spin on it. I don't necessarily go for it myself for the most part, but it just shows how they are hypocritical and also shows that they don't know their own book. No, they don't know their own book at all. They don't understand how their God is the one who claimed that he put the zodiacs up, that Jesus talks about the zodiacs, that Moses and all these other people do the same, and that they all got a bunch of divination involved in their religion. The whole birth story of Jesus and the resurrection. So this is why people like us are able to deconstruct from this religion, because we can read it and see what it actually is talking about and what it actually says, and strip away the doctrines, that man has decided is the way that this religion should go. Now, at the end of the day, it's just people looking up at the stars, looking at the skies, and putting meaning to it. Man put meaning to it. The stars don't put meanings to man. Through generations of study, man then gave it all meaning. And multiple religions do this. So there's no reason why a critically thinking mind should ever really do this and believe in it. Have fun with it, sure, and that's about it. Right? They burn, and yeah, Christians are burning incense and tarot cards and all that stuff. But so I appreciate you guys for being here tonight. We talked about some other subject matters as well. But don't forget, share the videos, damn it. Share all the videos I produced earlier today, all the videos. Especially that video that I produced earlier today where the woman called herself doing an exorcism on her son, and her son passed away. These people need to be put out on Front Street for their bad behavior. Share the videos. Continue to subscribe to the channel, become subscription holders and members. I appreciate it. Sign up, go and reserve your room for this meetup. We're going to have a great time. It's going to, as with everything that I do, for those of you who were on the Noah webinar, you got more than $10 worth. For those of you who was on the Financially on Fire seminar, you got more than $10 worth. So when you come to visit and we have the meetup, you're going to get a huge value for it, because that's what we do. We deliver value, right? And it's going to be a great experience. So we get to, shake hands, grip each other up and all that other stuff, and have fun and enjoy the community, enjoy the village. So I look forward to you guys showing up. Don't make plans for anything else for October 31st through November 2nd. We're all going to be here in San Antonio. And we're going to show this world that we can get together and have a good time in brotherhood and sisterhood and enjoy ourselves. So y'all have a great night. Always remember, you have to free yourself to be yourself, because you're good journey, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations. The link is in the bio and it's in the description of the video. Good night. Good night, everybody.